Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning. Sounds like you're awake. Welcome, whether you're regular or not so regular or whatever, visitor, very welcome. We're going to start with There's a Higher Throne. We have a short prayer. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you and come and worship you again this morning. We thank you for the youngsters and the kids that are here with us this morning. Pray that you bless them as they go out to their classes in a moment. Bless the teachers as they help them to understand what the Bible says and what the Bible teaches. We pray that you bless them all as they go in a moment. So thank you. And we thank you too for those who couldn't be here this morning through illness or whatever reason. We pray that you bless them in their homes or wherever they are. And all the others who are ill through perhaps the virus or other things. Bring them all to you now in Jesus' name. Amen. Sharon, could you come and bring us your update, please? And if Chris could follow that with the kids' talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go for it. Now, we hope this works. Technology is not my friend this week, so we'll see. But it's nice to be back up and letting you all know what's going on again. So we'll carry on. Thank you, Peter. Anybody want to have a guess at what those numbers represent? No? No? Anyone else? Think about what I do. It's very harsh, isn't it, David? So harsh. Yeah. Anybody else? Let me think. Who can I pick on? Jess, what do you think they might mean? Think of something that you go to. Prime. Yes. You are right. If we click on to the next slide for me, thank you. These are the number of children who've been to Prime Youth Club since October. It's quite a few of them. And we're having, a good time, Jess and Emmeline? Yeah, is it all right? Yeah. And where's Kirsty gone? Kirsty, is it all right as a helper? It's not too distressing. It's quite fun. It's busy, but it's fun. And if we click on to the next one, we've actually met 58 different children since October. I guess I kind of hope that they never all come at once. I guess we'd cope if they did, but 58 would be quite a lot of children. So yeah, it's been great to have them back, and they're really enthusiastic. And some of them have already signed up for Spree. So I'm looking forward to that as well, but more about that in a minute. So that's our prime numbers. Thank you. And then this one, there we go, not so many. Seb, you want to have a guess? Edge, yeah. This is Edge Youth Club, which, again, we've been having fun. And we were busier in January. But, yeah, just not as many. But we're hoping that as more and more from the village start to come, they'll tell their friends and they'll start coming along too. So it's a more, I don't know whether I'd call it sedate. Daniel, would you call it sedate? Maybe. It doesn't feel like it, no, quite. September, I think, was a huge shock for our older Edge members who are used to quite a serene atmosphere, and then all of a sudden these bunch of screaming Year 7s appeared, and they were literally screaming. So yeah, we've had to learn new tactics to help them calm down and blend in. But we've been having a lot of fun, and again, some have signed up for Spree, so that's really good. If you click on again for me. So Spree, yes, we already have. Well, this is when I checked last Friday. So we had 17 primary, 11 secondary, and 8 of those are non-church kids already booked up. So most of our church family haven't even started booking up yet from across the circuit. So we're already at those kind of numbers. So we're looking forward to taking lots of children as we normally do. So it's the 24th to the 26th of June, back at Showbrook Park, which in some ways is good because we can go and put the tents up on Thursday night. I'll be after you for that. But I guess some of them are going, oh, so we won't have fun fair rides like we did last time. But we'll see. I'm guessing they will build again once we've regrouped following COVID and 2 years off. So what's coming up next? Well, so we've got Cafe Emmanuel. I am doing a parent and child session on Tuesday. So they always have coffee on a Tuesday morning, but I've invited the school parents down with all the primary age children to come and do a craft while the mums and dads natter and have coffee, I guess. So we'll see how that goes on Tuesday morning. Who Let the Dads Out? I did a session again in Morchard before Christmas where the kids came together and with their dads and made a present for mum for Christmas. And it went really well. So we're doing another one this time in Witheridge the week before Mother's Day to again hopefully get some of those dads to come and make a present. I mean, I'm making their life super easy and giving them a bacon roll. So, clearly they should just be there really. So that's gone out and I've already had an inquiry about that this week already. So that's really good. And Lighthouse, of course, we start again with our Easter extravaganza, which is on the 14th of May or 14th of April in Morchard Village Hall. And again, I'm still on the hunt for some volunteers. I'm nearly full, but if anybody feels they want to be there, please come and talk to me. It's a Thursday. It's Maundy Thursday, it is, from 10 till 3. Yeah. Of course, Pete. Why would you not want to come? Oh, the cake. The cake is on 19th of March. I think that's the right date. I think that's the week before Mother's Day. Let's click on to the next one. Thank you. So there you go. You all recognise that picture, apart from me in the middle of it. We still need you. All the things that I get to do, I love doing, but none of them would happen without all of the volunteers that offer their time to come and help out, whether that be at Prime or Edge or at Lighthouse or at any of the other things that we do. So we as a group would really love more volunteers to come along. Lighthouse is a lot of fun, isn't it, Claire? It is, see? Didn't even flick, that, see? We click on again. So, if you can do nothing more, do the best thing and pray. If you can't physically be with us, please pray, because it makes a huge amount of difference. Before the event, while we're planning, on the day of the event, covering us with your prayer is much appreciated. As I said, I'll be after you in June to come and help me put up tents on the Thursday evening. we put up a lot of tents. I don't remember how many we put up last time, Rachel, do you remember? We were talking 2 marquees and then, I don't know, 12? Something like that. There's a lot of tents to go up, so all help is much appreciated. Prime Youth Club is the second Friday of every month from 7 till 8:30, and Edge is the fourth Friday from 7:30 till 9. And actually, Edge at the minute, if you want to volunteer for that one, you kind of get off lightly because of the way school holidays have fallen. They've only got one every other month because the fourth fall when they're on holiday. And as I said, Lighthouse, we've got a meeting next week. We'll be thinking about how we go forward for May or what we're doing. So again, your prayers and come and be involved. It'd be really great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for all the volunteers and what you do to help with the youth work. It's all important. Chris. The old man's coming to speak to the youngsters.
Well, now, I've been told that you youngsters are a very bright lot. So I'm going to just tell you a little story, and then hopefully you're going to tell me how to answer me a couple of questions. So, simple little questions, just to see how good you really are. So once upon a time, there was a man who was asked to go and do something. And he didn't want to go and do it. So he thought, the best thing I can do is go in the opposite direction to where I've been told to go to. So he got onto a ship, and he went off in the opposite direction. And this great storm, even worse than the one on Friday, came along and hit the ship. And they started to throw stuff overboard because they were so worried the ship was going to sink. And this man said, no, don't do that. It's my fault that this has happened. Throw me overboard. So they threw him overboard, and the storm stopped, and the ship went on. But this man was just sort of floundering, thinking, now what's going to happen, when this great big fish came along. So this man is now inside a fish, and he starts to do what does one do one's inside a fish? He started to pray. And then the fish swam to the nearest shore and spat him out. And then he went on and did what he was told to do. So that's a simple little story. Now, who's going to tell me the name of the person? Go on then. Jonah, that's right. Where did I read the story? Yep. In the Bible. Was it a true story? That's a more difficult one, isn't it? So I believe it is a true story. But what can we learn from it? Yep. That's right, yes. What else can we learn? You can't run away from God, that's right. And also, no matter where you go, as you say, you can't run away from God, but sometimes you think, I'm in such a difficult situation that God isn't going to hear me. But actually God says in the Psalms that even if you go to the bottom of the sea or to the top of the highest mountain, he can hear you and he will answer you. So whatever situation you get in, remember that. Remember Jonah inside the whale. He prayed, God answered him. Well done. You're as smart as I thought you were. Wish I could be that smart, don't you?
It'd be something new, wouldn't it? And just imagine if you were that fish and you swallowed Chris, you'd feel sick, wouldn't you? Well, I don't know. Seems like it. Right. Now we're going to sing Rescue the Perishing, Care for the Dying. There's a few notices I'd like to highlight. Witheridge Cafe this afternoon at 4 p.m. Cafe Church there at Witheridge. If you can, go and support that. On church council is on Tuesday, so be there if at all possible. And we had a leaders meeting the other day, and we took pity on the pianists and thought they could do with the odd service off. So we've decided once in a while to have internet music, which we have anyway, because we have some songs that are on the screen or whatever. So it'll be some odd services in and out where we take pity on the poor pianists and we just have internet songs, all right? So you know what's coming up. That'll be March, April, May time. It's a trial period for 3 months, for a quarter. So the next plan, in effect. Update on John Latham, who used to come here with his wife Sonia and daughter Dawn. Those of you who've been here for a while will know John well. He's out of hospital now and doing quite well. So he's made a good recovery so far. So that's something to be thankful for, because we have a time of prayer in a minute, so bear that in mind. Auntie Phyllis is improving, although not fit to come out of hospital yet. They're talking about her coming out, hopefully sometime this week coming, possibly early in the week, but we don't know. They got to get her diabetes more stable before they can let her out. And yeah, that's about it, I think. Anybody got any notices they want highlighted or added to that? No, right. We'll have a time of prayer now. And I was thinking this morning perhaps we'd have a time of complete silence where we pray silently in our own minds and our own hearts for the things and the people we want to pray for, and giving God thanks for likes of John being a lot better and Auntie improving and various things. And we can pray for the situations in the world that are highlighted in the news, probably half of which are true. But generally speaking, there's things we need to pray for. So let's pray. I'll start and I'll finish. Lord, as we come to you this morning, we come with our prayers, with our thoughts, with our petitions, with our thanks, with our praise. We bring them to you now. We thank you, Lord, that you listen. We thank you that you understand, because you lived on this earth yourself. And Lord, as we bring our prayers to you, our thanks and our praise, we offer it in the name of Jesus. Amen. Before we have the Bible readings, I'm going to ask Chris to come up, and he wants to do a little bit about street pastors. Perhaps we can explain a few things that are happening or not happening in street pastors. First off, Chris, you were a street pastor. You still are to a fair degree, but you've changed to being a prayer pastor. Why is that?
So I didn't have to go out with you so often. Next question. No.
I would add that it does seem that certain people are not put together very often. I think there may be a reason for that. Chris did say when I mentioned it to him on the phone, that's to save the others in the group that night. But anyway, carry on, Chris.
No, what the real reason was that I was coordinator for 8 years, and for the last 2 of those years, Penny was telling me I ought to think about giving it up. And anyway, I persevered, and then on the 8th anniversary, I said, right, I'll do 2 more years. But I also said, Lord, if it's right, I will no longer be coordinator. You bring somebody else along. And he immediately brought somebody else along, which was good because the things in the management side changed, and there was a lot of emphasis on paperwork, and I'm no good at any of that. So that was good. But then I found as I was going out that A, I was struggling physically more, and B, that my attitude towards the people was changing. And so I knew that prayer pastors were getting less and less, so I actually thought, well, I think I'm going to become a prayer pastor. And as you will hear shortly, God has spoken to me a lot and worked through that. And so I think it's actually right to be a prayer pastor. But we do need street pastors still, even those who've got to go out with David. Actually, going out with David is so good. And the person he's talking about is Julian, who is very similar to both David and myself.
Julian Sydenham, some of you know him from Tiverton. Used to be a postman.
And every time you go out with Julian, you only go about 10 yards and you stop for 10 minutes because somebody knows him, and you go out another 10 yards.
He knows everybody.
He knows everybody, but it's great. We need those people out on the streets, and we need to look at the work of street pastors and the way it's go forward. And we need more and more people, and we need prayer pastors. Oh, David will tell you how good it is being a street pastor.
I remember one night I was out with Julian, one of the rare occasions they let us out together. And there was a lady came out of a pub, brought her heart up all over her hair, right mess. And he said, it's all right. He said, I know her mum. I'll give her a ring. They live at so-and-so and her number's such and such. He didn't know her telephone number. He knew her address. And they didn't live in Tiverton. But he'd been a postman for so long. Apparently, when he did his deliveries as a postman, he would chat to everybody that he met as he went around. And Julian is greatly respected within the Tiverton community for his friendliness as a postman. He's known by all and sundry, apparently. But, you know, when we're on the streets, it's not so much now as it used to be, but there used to be fights more than there are now, whether that's accredited street pastors, some would say so, not for me to say. There were more problems with fights, but also with people being drunk, and to the point where they can't stand up. And we've carried people home before now, taken people to hospital before now. One bloke, there are any kids around. One bloke was in such pain, and he was holding his stomach. And I was looking for blood, thinking as he'd been stabbed. He had a white shirt on, so I thought it would show pretty quick if he got any blood around. And he was holding his abdomen in absolute agony. And we tried to get out of him what was wrong with him. Eventually he told us, and we took him to hospital for this afterwards, but he said, my girlfriend, I upset her. This was at midnight, he was telling us. He said, I upset her in the middle of the day. She kicked me in the nuts, and I've been dancing in the nightclub and it didn't do any good. Oh, no, I wouldn't have, would it? So we basically took him to Tiverton, who opened up their doors to the street pastors, because they will if we take somebody. And we took him in and left him in their care. They were going to call in an emergency doctor to assist. Never heard any outcome. But he was in absolute agony, to the point that he lived in Tiverton. He was living away from Tiverton at the time, but he had lived in Tiverton. He was brought up in Tiverton, and he was in such pain he couldn't remember which way the hospital was. So, you know, you come across things like that.
I'm going to set a challenge. I heard on Tuesday that the Vineyard Church in Tiverton are going to do a night's prayer pastoring for us. So they're going to do it on Zoom as we do prayer pastoring now. So I'm going to challenge Hill Lane. So some volunteers to do a Saturday night from 10 o'clock until 1 o'clock. And if you can't go that long, that's fine. You can just do some of it. But to join us and see what it's like to be a prayer pastor. It is amazing the way prayers are answered, the way that we can just sort of chat and get to know each other. It's a really good time. So I'm going to challenge you, and if you're interested in that, either speak to David or me, and we will fix up a Saturday evening for you to answer that challenge and be even better than the Vineyard Church, because perhaps we might even do 2 Saturdays in the course of a year. Who knows? Thank you.
Right, thanks, Chris.
Is that yours or mine?
That's mine, I think. Could I have the 2 readings now, please? Barry's going to ring. Well, you can ring if you like. Read Jonah chapter 3 and Arthur Jonah chapter 4, following on from Barry, please. Thank you, Barry.
Yeah, Jonah chapter 3. Jonah goes to Nineveh. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. Go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim it to the message I give you. Jonah obeyed the word of the Lord and went to Nineveh. Now Nineveh was a very important city. The visit required 3 days. On the first day, Jonah started into the city. He proclaimed, 40 more days and Nineveh will be overturned. The Ninevites believed God. They declared a fast, and all of them, from the greatest to the least, put on sackcloth. When the news reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne, took off his royal robes, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat down in the dust. Then he issued a proclamation in Nineveh, by the decree of the king and his nobles. Do not let any man or beast, herd or flock, taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth. Let everyone call urgently on God. Let them give up their evil ways and their violence. Who knows? God may yet relent with compassion, turn from his fierce anger, so that we will not perish. When God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he had compassion and did not bring upon them the destruction he had threatened.
The second reading is from Jonah chapter 4. Jonah's anger at the Lord's compassion. But Jonah was greatly displeased and became angry. He prayed to the Lord, O Lord, is this not what I said I was still at home? That is why I was so quick to flee to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abundant in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live. But the Lord replied, Have you any right to be angry? Jonah went out and sat down at the place east of the city. There he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. Then the Lord God provided a vine and made it grow up over Jonah to give him shade for his head and ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about the vine. But at the dawn the next day, God provided a worm which chewed the vine so that it withered when the sun rose. God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint and wanted to die and said, It would be better for me to die than to live. But God said to Jonah, Do you have a right to be angry about the vine? I do, he said. I am angry enough to die. But the Lord said, You have been concerned about this vine, though you did not tend to it and make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. But Nineveh has more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and many cattle as well. Should I not be concerned about that great city? You're into the reading.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, Barry. And aren't we grateful to God that Barry's voice is good enough now again that he could do that for us this morning. Thank you, Barry. Chris has asked for a YouTube clip to be played, so we're going to play it now, called Ancient of Days. Over to you, Peter. Thank you.
Though the nations rage, kingdoms rise and fall, there is still
going to hand over to Chris to do the rest of our worship this morning and finish. But before we do that, let's pray for Chris. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for Chris. We thank you for his faith. We thank you for his ability in speaking and other things. We pray that you bless him, especially this morning as he brings to us what you've laid upon his heart. We ask it in Jesus' name and for his praise. Amen.
Thank you, David. Glad you weren't too offended. I'll try harder next time. I chose that song because it's just so important that Jesus is our rock, our Saviour. He is the Ancient of Days, the same yesterday, today and tomorrow. And yeah. So let's just pray a moment, if I may. Just say, Lord, anything I say that is not of you, I just pray, Lord, that you will take that away. It will disappear in the wind. But Lord, that is of you will take root and grow. In Jesus' name. Anybody who heard my testimony the other week will realise I have a certain amount in common with Jonah, because for a long time I was running in the opposite direction to where God wanted me. I'm very grateful it only took an alpha course to bring me back, not a storm and a whale. So, yeah, I know a bit where Jonah stands, I feel. But before we look at the reading, I'd just like to share a little bit more of my journey through lockdown, because it's actually quite pertinent to what I'm going to say, I think. As many of you may know, I used to attend Hele Church. And when lockdown hit, literally the day of lockdown hit was the day that our new vicar was being inducted, I believe is the correct word. And so all that sort of fell to one side. But he did a very, very good job of setting up a Zoom service, even for the first Sunday, and keeping the 4 churches together on Zoom. He did a really good job. Unfortunately, that first week, it became very, very apparent very quickly that he and I have slightly different views of the Bible. In fact, completely different ends of the spectrum. So I felt it was right for me to leave. I thought it would be in everybody's interest if I left the church. Now, I just want to make sure this is absolutely, he is really the right man for that Silverton benefice. He is the person that the people prayed for, and I really do wish him well. But it was just not right for me to continue there. But this left me with a problem, because I've always felt that one of the reasons we came down here was we were called to Hele Church, and I really felt this. And there have been various problems over the time. And at one time, I was coming back from a service from here, because I used to come along here to feed. I was coming back from a service and I asked the Lord, do you want me to be at Hele or do you want me to be at Hill Lane? And I felt him quite clearly say Hele. And so I said, fair enough. And so I stuck it. But yeah, so that's that side of it. Then the other thing that happened during COVID, obviously we stopped going to church, and as with everybody else. But I did do quite a lot of prayer meetings on Zoom. In fact, I got quite accomplished at doing prayer meetings on Zoom. We'd have a fortnightly one that we have anyway now for street pastors and for the town of Tiverton. We had the Wednesday Bible study, which is really, really good, and that's still going. That's great. And I felt it was right, because the street pastors weren't patrolling, that we still ought to be praying for Tiverton on a Saturday night. And so we got a group of us together, all the prayer pastors and quite a lot of street pastors, and we had an open Zoom every Saturday night, and it started going from, I believe originally it was 9 till 10:30, and it's just kept going from that. And it was during these periods of time that this question came into my head: what is God calling us to do through COVID? And I just really felt that God was trying to tell us something through COVID. What was it? And the verse that kept coming to my mind, and I was not the only person by any means, was 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will turn from their wicked ways, pray from heaven, and I will hear from heaven and heal their land. So that question is then, who is their people? Who is his people? Well, we are the church. And I really believe, through sort of thinking this through and through praying it through, that we're called to come back to basics. And one of the other things that came to me at this period of time was actually God called me down here, or called us down here, not so much for Hele Church, but actually for street pastors. And that took a great weight off my mind, and took a great responsibility of that I wasn't doing what God called me to support Hele Church. So that's really, where I'm at now. And I just feel, as I say, that God is calling the church back to basics, to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our mind, to love our neighbours as ourselves. Now, I'd like you to hold that thought for a moment while we just have a quick look at the reading and look at Nineveh and then at Jonah's reactions. Now, Nineveh was built on the fertile plains between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, on the intersection of two very important trade routes, north to south and east to west. It was close to the, I hope I'm going to pronounce this right, the Quasar River, which is a tributary of the Tigris. And the city of Mosul in Iraq is now expanding to cover the area where Nineveh was. Nineveh was surrounded by a massive wall, thick, high wall, some 12 kilometers long. In its day, it was one of the largest cities in the world. Why was it so wicked? Nahum tells us in chapter 3, verse 1, woe to the city of blood, full of lies, full of plunder, never without victims. It was a very violent place, and without doubt, extortion, exploitation, prostitution, domestic violence, child abuse, homosexuality, protectionism, all sorts of violence, addiction and drunkenness, the list goes on, would have been rife in this place. Basically, actually, much the same as London, Birmingham, or any other city today. All these actions are sinful actions and a result of sin, the effects of it. The main problem, as in all our big cities, was a mixture of godliness and idolatry. Now here, things begin to differ a little bit between now and then. The big problem today is the belief there is no God, or if there is something, he's some vague, cuddly old chap with a white beard, not doing a very good job, or saying, there, everything will work out in the end. The problem in Nineveh was that they had a definite God, Ishtar, the god of war and of passion. It was also home to a massive temple to Ishtar. No wonder Jonah didn't want to go and deliver the message of impending destruction. I'm not sure I would have jumped at the opportunity either. Now let's look at the response of the people when they heard Jonah, especially the response of the king. Verses 5 to 9 tell us that the people believed and they proclaimed a fast which was reinforced by the king, who not only joined in, but humbled himself and put on sackcloth. Somehow I cannot see Sadiq Khan, Andy Burnham, Boris Johnson or Keir Starmer doing this. Can you imagine what might have happened at the outbreak of COVID had they done so and instructed us all to join in petitioning the Lord? I'm not saying it would have stopped COVID in its tracks, but I would not have been at all surprised if it had. Look what happened when King George VI called a day of prayer in World War II. Dunkirk. A real answer to a miracle, to prayer. If we take a quick look at chapter 4, it tells us that as a result of this message being responded to, Jonah threw all his toys out of the pram and went to sit and sulk. Even though he was sulking, the Lord blessed him with a vine for shelter, which was then taken away to get Jonah's attention to the fact that God had great concern for this great city of over 120,000 people. If God has great concern for a city the size of Exeter, how much concern does he have for a city of 9.32 million people like London. Can we do anything about it? I am more and more convinced that he is calling his people like you and myself to come back to basics. What do I mean by come back to basics? Last week, Claire showed us that J. John video asking where Jesus is in the car of our lives. I like to think he's in the driving seat of my car. But sadly, I'm very definitely a passenger who argues at most road junctions. I think if we come to the junction where the back to basics signpost is, and I don't argue, I will discover what it means. I don't think it means arguing over the things that many churches argue over, like women vicars, homosexuality, the colour of the new carpet, or so many other things that we love to spend so much time and effort on. I think it will be to do what James tells us in chapter 2, verse 27. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after the orphans and widows in their distress and keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Critics tell us that in the 21st century there should be no need for food banks. That may be the case in a utopian world, but we're not in one. Jesus told us we will always have the poor with us. So food banks are being obedient to Jesus. They're they're helping and looking after the poor. At that time, widows and orphans were very disadvantaged people. Who are the disadvantaged people today? The homeless, drug or alcohol addicts, victims of domestic or sexual abuse, convicts both serving and ex. The list goes on. But I hear you say there are many organisations to help such people. This is true, and many do an excellent job, but they don't share with their clientele the one who has the truth, the one who has the true full answer, the one who will stay with the victims and who has promised never to leave them. I truly believe this is why Christians Against Poverty is so successful. They don't try and hide Jesus. In fact, they promote him at every opportunity. Keeping ourselves from being polluted by the world is not quite so simple. Jonah was very angry because he knew how bad the people of Nineveh were. Before condemning him for being so angry, how do we feel about people like Jimmy Savile, Fred and Rosemary West, Wayne Couzens? I wonder how Iranians feel about the Ayatollah. How do Afghan Christians feel about the Taliban? Sometimes when the rubber hits the road, it's not as simple as we might like to think. Jonah knew God would relent of his decision to destroy them. I also believe Jonah knew the people would return to their old ways. But it was not down to him to pass judgment on them. It is the same with us today. We see alcoholics come to Jesus, then fall off the wagon. Drug addicts do the same thing. Do we look at them and say, one strike and you're out? What about homosexuals, those who are cohabiting or sleeping about? Do we say you are sinners condemned to going to hell? No, too often they've heard that line, and all it does is alienate them. No, we need to get alongside them, and when the time is right to share Jesus, tell them that we don't condemn them or their lifestyle, but neither do we condone them. We believe theirs is not the lifestyle, but ultimately on the day of judgment, it's between them and Jesus. We are called to be watchmen. Like Ezekiel, who in chapter 33 was told, if he saw the sword coming and did not warn the people, their blood would be on his head. But if he did warn the people and they didn't respond, their blood would be on their own heads. In the end, Jonah was a good watchman. We need to be good watchmen today. and warn or remind people that there will be a day of judgment. It shouldn't be difficult. After all, we have the power of the Holy Spirit and the maker of heaven and earth with us. Just this morning, I read of a church in London where a vicar was appointed to give it one last chance. It had a congregation of under 20 people. And in the space of a year, he turned that church round to a congregation of over 200. When he asked how he did it, he said, "We went out into the community. We asked what their needs were, and then we met those needs." And we're doing that today. And I believe street pastors need to do this, that we need to go out into our community, because there's a lot of people who want to listen, to talk rather, and need somebody to listen. Street pastors are good at that. In fact, a lot of us can be good at that. So, let's get back to basics. Let's love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our mind. To love our neighbours as ourselves. And allow him to lead us how and where he wants us. It might be in practical help. It might be just listening to people. It might be trying to show them where they're wrong. Or it might just be giving financial help. But most of all, let's put the Lord our God, Jesus Christ, who paid the price for our freedom. Let's put him first. Thank you. And we're going to sing now, How Deep the Father's Love. I think there are lines in this song that is just so, so true.
That he should give his word.
As we go from this place, may the Lord bless each one of us. May he keep each one of us safe. May he lead and guide each one of us in the direction that he wants us to go. And may we each be blessed in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.